morning, evening, or whatever time of day it might be. Welcome back to RoundTableMedia's Echo Podcast. This is Season 1, Episode 5, the finale. We did it. I told you it would come out this weekend. It is coming out this weekend. My name is Brett, your hostess with the mostest, and I would really appreciate a $5 tip. Joining me after a 2-week hiatus, something like that, is my co-host Alex, and she is like getting 2 pizzas instead of 1 from Domino's because your driver may have been an idiot, but it's still going to be a good night. Say hi, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Echo Podcast. And this week we have an extra special treat. Resurrected from the dead pilot season, we have our friend. We have our friend, our ex-classmate, and an overall great person, Chris.
Hi, how are you? I'm back from the dead.
So, Chris, how are the bees?
Kept.
Chris, before we get started, can you roll for podcast?
Yeah, gladly. That is a natural 15.
That good?
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
It's going to be a good show then. So, for those of you that don't know, Chris is our local dungeon master extraordinaire.
Mm-hmm.
You want to plug your D&D work real quick before we start?
Nope.
All right, cool. Well, I said this last episode with Tyler, the 2-hour movie review nonsense, which I still don't know why I did that. That took 3.5 hours worth of editing. And
Not all ideas are good.
I hate myself for doing it, but it's a great episode. It's all about analyzing Star Wars and Marvel because Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker is coming out, and then Endgame is coming out next week. So we just movie nerded for a while. So if you haven't watched that, it's a ride. But buckle up and enjoy it. Or if you haven't caught up on the Echo Podcast, what are you doing watching the finale? Go watch the other 4 episodes to see how we got here.
We have some really great episodes, and a whole episode devoted to chicken.
That was not part of the Echo Podcast.
Oh, it wasn't?
That was our spring break special.
Oh, I'm
The
sorry.
Echo Podcast is a continuum because people have been asking me, like in person, not online, which you should go down and like and comment and subscribe because we're on YouTube now. Trying to grow those numbers. But people have been asking me, well, what's the Echo Podcast and what's the other crap? Like, isn't it all the Echo Podcast? I'm like, no, it's not. The Echo Podcast is specifically like a series of episodes that start somewhere and end somewhere.
Mhm.
And in episode 1, we started talking about RPG games. And now we're ending, following that thread of topics, like a big, long conversation with different people.
Mm.
And we're ending on College Burnout with a dungeon master. And if that's not full circle, I don't know what is.
Here we are.
That's
We
pretty
made
great.
it.
And I think, Brett, you when we were talking beforehand, you brought up a good point. We have sitting here today a junior in college, about to finish his junior year, a
Me.
soon-to-be college graduate, me, and an alum.
A dearly departed. Here we are.
So why is it good that I bring that up?
Well, because I think we were able to get 3 different perspectives of college burnout.
Did I say that yet?
No.
Spoilers. We're talking about
No,
college
you did
burnout.
talk about college burnout.
I know,
You said,
but
we're going to talk about college burnout with the dungeon master.
Oh, okay, cool.
Coordinated
I don't know.
efforts.
And you said he said that, didn't he?
I haven't had caffeine in 4 days.
I wasn't paying attention in 4 days.
I missed you so
I missed you so
much. Buckle up, folks. Here we go.
Y'all
Okay.
missed a whole season with this gym. Just saying.
It's never going to release. It will release. 1 million subs, and I'll release the 1 pilot episode I still have.
Oh, God. Which one did you keep?
Oh, the one where I called out like 3 of my enemies and confessed my love to someone.
Oh,
Spoilers, it was Chris.
alas. I shot him down on air.
Real hard.
That's why I kept it.
It was really awkward to watch from here. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Oh, man. All right. Well, let's start with this question. Chris, why did you decide to go to college? That too deep right off the start?
I don't know. This is digging deep for questions I haven't been asked in about 5 years by college counselors.
Oh, I'm not your counselor. I am your friendly neighborhood hostess with the mostest. I
There
don't
it
know why
is.
that's my thing,
Okay, well,
but it happened.
I don't know. Some of it, I wish there were a deeper answer, but some of it did feel like it was out of obligation of like, my brother went here, I felt the need to go here, continue my higher education, I value education, this seemed like the next linear step, and that was a lot of it. At the time, I had different life expectations, but a lot of it, yeah, some of it was obligation, some of it was wanting to better myself and advance my own career opportunities, but nothing too extraordinary. I feel like it was a lot of very rote answers that you'd get and hear.
I mean, I don't want you to feel alone in that because that's probably the biggest reason I came to college was because my grandfather, who's a really important person in my life, came here, and I wanted to like honor his legacy and like pay back all he's meant to me and everything. And my mother was a teacher, my aunts are teachers, so they big like value of education in my family too. It's like, well, I need to like do good in high school and get into college, and so that's a big reason why I started looking around. But I mean, Alex, are you any different? Do you have some like higher reason of wanting to continue your education, or did you just feel like you had to?
Well, I think it's interesting. You said something, and I totally forgot what you said, but it kind of.
I just said it.
I know, but I don't remember because you kept talking, and then I was like, "Oh wait, this isn't." Anyways, no, but I think my big thing was, and I don't know if either of you kind of felt this way, but for me, there was like no other option, really.
What do you mean?
So like, because I was always like the mantra that was shoved down my throat in high school was like, if you want to get a good job, you got to have a college degree.
I definitely grew up hearing the same thing.
So did I.
So it's this idea that like,
And not just from family that you hear
Oh,
that.
no,
It's like
everywhere.
societal. It's
no,
Your
this is
teachers,
mostly from
admission
my
counselors that come.
Yeah, from my high school. Like,
Yeah.
basically, my high school prided itself in placing every single student in a 4-year university. That was like no community college, no one went to trade school. Like, that was like its big thing that it was able to tout. My year, we had one girl who actually took a gap year and did some service work in DC,
Mhm.
but they didn't talk about that. They talked about the college she was going to enroll in after her gap year because they
Woof.
didn't want that to fudge the numbers.
Wow.
So
That's disappointing. As someone who took a gap year.
But this also sounds like specific to your own high school.
it is I think it's very specific. I'm from St. Louis, so if anyone listening is from St. Louis and knows like the private school system of
You slice your bagels wrong.
that's the
Okay,
best way to
not
slice.
talk about bagelries.
Sorry, I'll put the guns down.
It's a controversial topic, especially to anyone from St. Louis. Let's not tread
I'm
that
gonna
territory.
just pretend you didn't say that. But no, if like anyone from St. Louis and knows the private school system, they know like that's just kind of the culture of St. Louis private school systems and private school families and private school communities is like no one really who goes to a private school in St. Louis. It's almost looked down on to not go to some sort of 4-year.
Yeah,
college.
there's some moral superiority to continuing your
Yes.
education.
Oh, without a
and,
doubt.
Like having a degree is meritorious on its own right, and you're not getting a degree because you want to be a better you and continue learning and favor that. It's because, well, you need a good job and you can't have a good job and can't be a good person unless you have a degree, evidently.
Exactly. And I think that's the mentality I came into college having was like, I
Yeah.
need to figure out what my career is going to be. But I think just given the classes I have taken in college, the fact that I was part of the honors program here, my attitude towards education has shifted. And
yes.
And I think that like I have definitely like I was talking to a professor about it and I'm like I told him I don't think I learned like how to write here. I didn't learn how to do a research paper. I didn't learn how to do an oral presentation here, but I did learn like other things, you know, that I think comes with like a liberal arts education.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I would go to as far to say is if you're the caliber of student that's coming to a liberal arts college already and gets accepted on like academic bases or those kind of things, you're coming in already knowing how to write an essay or make a presentation or give a speech or those kinds of, or do a research paper. One, because you chose to prepare for it with like higher courses in college, or two, you're just a driven and I use this term loosely with finger quotes, but gifted student. And I don't mean like mama's little special star child. I mean,
but,
some
like,
of us just...
You're higher caliber in your graduating high school class. Like,
Some
you're
of
in the
us-
top half at
Some of us just get it.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people. Funny enough, I know them. I don't just get it.
Mhm.
But I mean, we'll get into that later. But I agree with you. Like, but I would in most of that. But I would push back in one sense of I would say I think I learned how to write a better paper.
Yeah.
Give a better speech here.
You definitely develop these skills that you come in with
Right.
some basis on.
Mhm.
But yeah, it is kind of weird where it's like, oh, well, you learn how to really write in college. And it's like, that's weird because I did have to write to apply and get in here. I did have to
Right.
write many essays for that.
Right. No, and I think that's right. Like, you develop your skills because you practice them, especially. But I know, like, a lot of people, like, I know a lot of freshmen who don't know how to write, like,
Yes.
a 5-paragraph lit paper. That,
Oh,
like,
yeah,
you
just
know,
like a opening 3 body. Yeah.
yeah, you know, people who don't know how to, like, write an argumentative paper in that sense,
Mhm.
like, have a thesis, like, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So, like, those foundational building blocks, more so, is what I
hmm
came into college knowing.
Yeah, but no, I definitely did get to hone my craft, so to speak, when it came to, oh, well, I knew how to do research, but now I really know how to do research, and I know how to gather my own data, and I know how to apply that and publish a research paper, etc.
Yeah.
I think that's part of what keeps freshmen and some sophomores so bushy-eyed when they come in, because you're coming in and getting to like take steps further in these skills you already have. And you think, and I think the first year for me, second semester especially, was a lot of like, I can feel myself like being pushed like outside of high school and my comfort zones and everything. So I think that's why the entrance into college is so different. And like that first year especially is why it's this like honeymoon phase, I guess. And depending on how you use it as well. But one big difference I had was I was a commuter for my first 2 years. So I can speak on that in a minute, but you have been on campus since day one.
Yeah.
Chris, I forget, have you ever been on campus?
I was on campus for 4 years and then did one final semester commuting.
Okay. So either one of you can start. I think I let Chris start with the last point, so Alex, but describe that first like entrance feeling experience of being on campus and in class, and then I'll like not rebuttal, but like come back later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's like your first time on your own, actually, in all senses of the word. Because, like, I didn't live at home. Like, my home's 6 hours away. Or, like, where I would, my home in high school. And so it's weird because it was weird and, like, kind of exhilarating because, like, you just live with a bunch of people your own age. And I feel like everyone comes into college very excited about that. So, like, I think back to freshman year and all, like, the antics I was up to. Like, I pulled so many pranks. I planned so many elaborate birthday parties. I went out, like, to get, like, ice cream really late on school nights. I had a big group of friends, and we'd always, like, play games on the weekends. Like, we did stuff. And we also participated in campus culture more. And then saw, like, no one participated in campus culture here. And then promptly, like, kind of slowly trickled out of that, I feel like. And I feel like what's also interesting, especially about your freshman year, is you're not really ingrained into one specific organization, club, department, or anything. You're just kind of trying a bunch of stuff out and seeing what works. So those people that you meet, like, in those first few weeks become kind of like your friends for that, at least that first semester. And then I felt like my sophomore year, I moved into my sorority house, and I declared a major. And so I was really able to kind of, like, focus in on more of those specifically, and then made friends through those. And, like, kind of was and then, like, the people I talked to freshman year, like, we didn't really, like, hang out as much, if that makes sense. I don't know if that really answers the question. But the point being, like, it was definitely, like, and I felt like I had more time freshman year to do random stuff. Like, I have so many pictures from freshman year of just random, like, fun activities my friends and I did. Like, we went out in Tulsa and we, like, did stuff on campus, just, like, things like that, like, I haven't done since then, and I look back on it and I'm like, is it just because, like, I haven't had the time or I haven't been motivated, so there is a definite shift, I feel like, and, like, at the end of sophomore year, like, I was ready to leave TU because I would just, like, I thought it was boring, and I was like, there's nothing here for me. Like, people don't want to hang out. Like, they just kind of want to do their own thing, or, like, they have their one person that they want to do their thing with, and that's it. Like, they don't want to do things in groups, and I didn't really have that, so I was like, it felt too small almost at that point. So, yeah, Chris, what about your thoughts on any of this?
Yeah, freshman year is definitely that trial period, is what I found out. Especially living in a dorm and having that culture of all of these people around you, all of your neighbors are going out and getting friend groups, and then they're bringing them out, or they're bringing them back and hanging out with them in your space, and you get to know them a little bit. And so you get a very good taste for surroundings and, like, groups and what different dynamics can play into. But it's a little bit dangerous because if you don't find your own particular niche before you go out and move into an apartment or just move out of dorms in general, then your sort of one lifeline is whatever friendships you have made or your roommate or whatever groups you're in. And if you haven't made those groups, then your societal link it's kind of thin. And so there was a big difference for me living in a dorm and then my sophomore year and onward living in an apartment. Um, all of which were like related to how much interaction I got. Um, for me, I enjoyed the dorm aspect of getting to know a lot of people, and there was a lot of weird shenanigans, like you'd mentioned, and like the 1 week best friends thing
Yes.
at the
Oh my
beginning.
gosh, that's such a thing. Like, yeah, especially because like, did you do orientation too?
Yes, I did.
So like, you have your orientation group that like
Mhm.
you hang out with for a week, and like for me, never saw again.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest.
Yeah, I think there was only 1 or 2 people from my orientation group that ended up staying with TU.
Wow,
Yeah, I had 4 leave from my group.
that's
yeah.
crazy.
So that's an interesting transition to our major topic today of burnout. But yeah, friend group attrition is kind of a sad thing to watch. But it does happen mostly that freshman year. And then by sophomore year, I joined a fraternity, and most of my really good friends were either through that or adjacent to that.
Yeah.
And so if they weren't my brothers, then it was friends of my brothers mostly.
So, I think definitely that overcharged environment you're put in freshman year
Mm-hmm.
is
High
what kind of
energy.
like kicks you through the beginning of college.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's common knowledge that humans thrive in community. And I don't know if this is present on every university, but I agree with you that TU is very compartmentalized in its social sphere. It's almost really weird. It's just so hard to get anyone to do anything here.
Yeah.
And I don't know why the school either attracts only hermits, cuz I'm a hermit.
Yeah.
My favorite thing to do at the end of the day is go home, or unless I get an invite from like this small list of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there just happens to be a bunch of hermits on campus and we're so hermit-ish.
This is interesting because this was not my experience.
It is
Really?
now. I totally get what she's saying.
Yeah, it's like
Or hermit-y, but do we just exude a bunch of loner across the whole campus? Or is there just really nothing to do? Or is everyone just so burnt out they don't want to do anything?
So this is a topic that I knew would get covered with burnout eventually, which it's the recharge period of like how people spend time to
Right.
recover whatever energy they've lost, hopefully throughout the week, often throughout months and years of losing interest in things. One of the most common ways that people in college choose to revitalize themselves is binge drinking. Which, and like this party culture in terms of like, okay, well, I'm exhausted and stressed and anxious, and so what am I going to do to not be stressed and anxious?
drink.
And so TU has a very niche party culture
Mhm.
where you have
It's not a very good one.
the Greek life party culture, and
Ugh.
then you have
The apartment party culture.
A block party
apartment
culture?
party culture, which I partook in the latter,
Mhm.
Probably smarter.
which was weird because all of the people that I apartment partied with were from my Greek organization, but I also came from a fraternity that didn't have a house.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how different my collegiate experience would have been had we had a house, because what we did was we just went to each other's apartments and were like, this is our party. And it always ended up being these small groups and doing like very wholesome things just while drinking. So it's like, oh, well, let's play some card games or board games while drinking, or let's watch a bunch of Disney movies while drinking. And that's...
Yeah, I can tell you very assuredly that that does not happen at Pike.
No Disney movies while drinking?
I don't think those guys know the meaning of the word Disney.
They own too much. That's not true.
They have ESPN, so
Fair. Okay, maybe they know.
They
they may not
may
know
have
that
heard of
Disney
Disney.
owns ESPN. You know, that's like
Fair.
that's some media culture and power knowledge right there.
That, yeah.
Let's not bring up that class.
But yeah, that recharge is one of the major issues, because if you look at it from a very objective standpoint, binge drinking isn't a healthy way to recharge your batteries.
No.
But apparently effective.
Is it though?
I mean, how
It's-
else do some of these frat guys stay for 4 years and graduate?
Are they actually like thriving is the question, or are they just getting by? Because I feel like
So there's two sides to the question of, is that effective?
okay,
I was gonna say,
Um,
let's let the psychiatrist speak.
Not a psychiatrist. Don't have a medical degree.
The
Dungeon master.
the,
Dungeon Master, Mr. Beast.
the educated professional.
There you go. There you go.
So, is it immediately effective? Oh, yes. There's not many things that are better at not as fast acting of a depressant as alcohol, especially in large quantities. It's like that immediately takes care of any immediate stress you're feeling pretty well. Long term, is it effective? No. In terms of, one, it puts your body through a lot of strain in terms of liver and brain, whole body being physically dehydrated. That's the headache you feel when you drink too much and are hungover. It's because your brain is so dehydrated that it's literally shriveled up and in pain. And so
That explains something.
yeah, stay hydrated. So is it effective long term? No, because you're not actually refreshing parts of you. Is it effective short term? Sure, if you want to forget about your problems for a magical night, yeah, it'll do that. But what I would recommend instead is just learning to balance your life more, which is much easier said than done, but we can talk about that later.
Well, I think part of the life balance is, and this is something I've had since like the first months of my freshman year, is that Saturdays are, I never do schoolwork unless I absolutely have to.
Mhm.
Like if it's due Sunday or Saturday night, which I think happened once,
That's dumb.
where I just have that much to do. But it's the amount of times I've had to genuinely do work on a Saturday, I think I could count on one hand, and I think it's 3. And Saturdays have just been like like we're not doing school. Literally, I can take care of anything and everything else, errands, paperwork, family, friend, like anything, or do nothing. But
Mhm.
whatever I do, it's not going to be school. And those are nice. But there are definitely times, like last semester when I was in 18 credit hours, 6 classes, 2 dumb classes, that one day was not near enough.
Yeah.
It sped by because I slept through half of it
Yeah.
and had to wake up and then take care of, like, my home, which
Yeah.
took, a set amount of time. And then, like, ugh.
Yeah. So one of the things that burnout is extremely comparable to is workplace turnover,
Right.
which is something that I've researched a lot in terms of like what causes an employee to leave their institution. What causes a student to check out of their institution is not a far cry from that.
Right.
And so a lot of it is stress management, especially at the heart of burnout. But one of the things that, if you're wanting to address the problem and say, we need to fix burnout in students, what you're really going to have to address is stress and life balance, which is something that's difficult because I feel like most people already know the answer. In terms of, if you went outside right now, grabbed a student and asked them, how do you be a good student? Like, everyone's pretty familiar with the answers to that question. They'll regurgitate some list of like, oh, well, do readings before lectures, make sure that you study in 1-hour increments divided by 30-minute breaks, or make sure you eat well, make sure you review your notes from class right before you go to sleep, make sure you're getting enough sleep, 7 to 9 hours, depending on how. They'll regurgitate this list of correct answers, and then how many times have you started your day 15 minutes before your first class thinking, oh hell, oh god, oh no, not again, and then you run to the kitchen to grab something to eat if you're lucky. You're like, okay, well, breakfast, full balanced Pop-Tart. Oh, that box is empty. Let me just throw that in the trash. Oh, the trash is overflowing. Oh God. And that's how your day starts.
Right.
And by the time you get to class, you're not filled with energy or happiness or caffeine. You're filled with adrenaline, and you fall back asleep when that high runs out.
Right.
And then you wake up in time to be leaving that first class. It's like, that's we know the answer of how to be a good student, but the latter is more likely, and why is that? So I guess I'll reopen this back up to both of you. What is it that makes that first ideal student archetype so hard to meet? What that expectation?
I think the amount that we're expected to do
Yeah.
for classes, if that makes sense, or even just like whatever we're involved in on campus.
Well, you and I can both speak to that because we've both taken like 18 credit hour semesters. And I didn't do, I mean, for context's sake, I didn't, and I don't think you did either. I didn't take 18 hours by choice or to challenge myself or anything.
It was for fun.
No.
Just for fun.
You shut your dirty mouth. There's nothing fun about that.
No.
I mean, for context's sake, I'm not a person that enjoys school. It's honestly my least favorite thing because it's just a bunch of get up, sit down, turn this in, turn that in. Like, it's not practical because I'm not going to be an academic, and universities for that, or getting a piece of paper that says you should pay me a higher salary. I'm here because I want a higher salary.
Yeah.
But I had to take 18 hours at least once to get out in 4 years because I can't afford to stay here more than 4 years. And it was the worst semester to do it because of the credits that I needed to get out of the way because of what was available. One of those credits was my French 4 credit with, I don't even care if this somehow gets back to that professor. I cannot stand that professor. Is an abysmal professor and human being. This professor literally said, like, first day of class, that this is a 3-hour class because we meet twice a week for an hour and a half. And we're also expected to do 4 hours of homework in preparation for this class and or exams and tests. So that's 7 hours in total a week for one class. I had 5 other courses that were also 3-hour courses. And your average 3-hour course requires about 1 to 2 hours of homework, depending on the professor, the difficulty of the course, or just where you are in the semester, like midterms and finals.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going to say I had 15 plus 18 plus 4, which would have been 22, and then...
Welcome to our math podcast.
Yeah, 30...
We just do math.
Apparently, I was being asked to devote 35-ish hours a week to my classes with a very heavy bias towards my French class.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not a numbers person because it took me a while to add that together. But that doesn't work if you ask me.
No, and I mean, the first thing people are going to do is like, oh, well, people are supposed to work 40-hour work weeks, why can't you do 35? But there's a difference between working a job and
I worked retail 40 hours a week. It's much easier.
Oh, yes.
Right.
There's a difference between that and switching activity between 5 different subjects and balancing that with...
diet, sleep.
Yeah. Living.
Not only that, but I
Extracurriculars.
feel like especially at TU, people work on top of this.
Yeah, that's...
No, I'm very lucky that I don't need a job.
You know,
I
like...
would have dropped out.
Yeah, like I know, I have a friend, she's a nursing major,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And so that's a super intensive program here.
Mm-hmm.
Requires the clinicals, and she has to work 40 hours a week just to go here.
Yeah.
On top of being a nursing student.
Mm-hmm.
And it got to the point where like she ended up missing the GPA mark by like 0.2
Yeah.
or 0.0, like something real minimal. And so now
Something so arbitrary that it makes you want to just flip the entire like institutional education system on its head.
yes, and the reason why is because she had to work
Yeah,
this
you
much
can't...
because of her situation. And
You
so
can't take 35 hours of classes and 40 hours of work
And sleep 8 hours.
sleep 8. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what this French professor of mine said. Like, literally, when I broke down to them, like, what I was going through. Because the advice from my parents was just be honest with your professor. It's worked before,
Mhm.
and it did. God bless Ben Peters. But when I did that, this professor literally said, and I quote, in a demeaning French accent, well, that was stupid. Why'd you do that?
Education is suffering. Why did you not prepare for this?
no, and
Why are you such a stupid American?
I think like the reason why it's so
Oh, God!
What?
That's what I wish I could have said.
Oh, it's like
I
what?
was like, did we not record? What's going on? But no, and I think like the reality is though, like I think
Just got that
especially in
heated
like
thinking about
arts
it.
and sciences, I feel like professors are for the most part understanding of
Yeah.
that. If you were like
9
hey,
out of 10 teachers.
I was-
going
yeah,
to be
I was
like,
gonna
9
say-
out of 10,
8.5 to 9 out of 10 teachers, totally fine.
very cool with it.
Dr. Hosmer, now one of my favorite professors here at the school, I turned in a paper to him a full day late
Yeah.
and just said, I've had the
It
worst.
happens. Here's my paper.
I said, I have no excuse except this has been a horrible week and I had horrible planning. So sorry, here's the paper. And he said, okay.
Yeah, I think most people account for life to happen
Exactly.
as professors, but it is the fact that you are going to have those professors that don't,
Yeah.
and that's infuriating and inflexible.
And I think that's a reality of life as well. Like even if you're not going to go into academia, like if you're going to have bosses that don't care and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
no, like
I wanted that report on my desk 2 days ago.
right, or like no, like you have to be here for this shift, like blah
Yeah.
blah blah blah. But then you also have bosses who get it and are understanding.
Yeah, and as the person who worked retail covering other people's shifts, I can attest that things come up.
No, I worked in a restaurant.
I
Mhm.
never covered anyone's shifts in retail because no one ever covered mine. I needed
Oh.
I needed to be covered twice because I was
I needed money. So
I was in high school and I had my retail job and I was going on a school trip for one of my covers.
Mm.
And then the other time I was going on a short term like mission trip. It was like a weekend trip or a week trip. I don't remember. But I needed to be covered.
Yeah.
And 2 separate people said, "Yeah, we'll cover you." And my manager told me when I got back from both times, "Yeah, nobody showed up to cover you." And I was like, "Well, I'm never covering for anyone then."
Yeah.
One of those people asked me to cover for them once, and I went, "You remember January? No." And
A vengeful spirit
and
has
walked
presided
away.
into me.
hey,
Yeah.
retail is you got to get in there and
Cutthroat,
scrap.
I guess.
Yeah.
If you want to succeed in retail, you got to be
Mm-hmm.
a certified Sith Lord.
Amazing.
Or risk the burnout.
But no, on this topic of burnout, as we're talking about, I think it's pretty clear that as we have been in college, we have all been burnt out.
Mhm.
Well,
probably
then
since.
let me ask this, Chris. When was your moment where you stopped and
My
said,
question.
"I'm burnout"?
Yeah.
Like I'm not asking for like a timestamp.
Well,
like
it was
January
6th. Not the
It was a
19th.
snowy day outside, and
Snowy
as I
autumn
woke
day.
up to the foggy window, I realized it was truly my eyes with the tears I felt
This is going.
streaming down my face as I looked at my laundry list of things to do, and I realized in that moment.
I was not happy.
Scene.
No, it really. It really did strike for me, I think, at the beginning of junior year. Not the beginning
Same.
of junior year. It actually usually doesn't hit me at the beginning of years. It usually hits me about
Midterms.
a little right after midterms, weirdly. Like,
Mhm.
I finish midterms and
You're
I'm
like,
like,
I'm good.
that wasn't actually worth it. I hate
You're-
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm not good. Oh God.
Oh no.
Oh God.
Goodness.
Oh God. Oh God. And it just gets progressively worse.
Progressive screaming. Yeah, no, I think that's when it hit me, and it was for a myriad of reasons. Like, I got socially burnt out, I got academically burnt out, and it all just kind of piled on and gets to this, like, spiral of loss, where
Mhm.
it's like, oh, well, I didn't do this, so now I need to wake up early and do it, and then you wake up late for doing it early, and then
Mhm.
you show up unprepared, and then you're unprepared for everything, and it just snowballs. And so, like, the answer to burnout cannot be don't let anything fall through the cracks, because eventually something will fall through the cracks.
So since you've been graduated now for about 4 months.
Yeah.
So, is it gone?
The what part of
burnout?
that?
The burnout?
Well, I mean, like, being burnt out of school, or just...
Let me
well, you said,
let
like,
me
you were-
ask it this
You were
way.
burnt out in multiple ways. So like,
yeah, I was gonna
Oh.
say, how long did
Yeah.
it take for you to say,
I
you know what, I feel better?
A lot of the social burnout ended up, like, during school breaks is usually when I got things back under control, in terms of, like, okay, I had a long period, I miss people, or I want to get back on the grind and get some stuff done, or I finally caught up on stuff, now I can get back to it. And I think those breaks are extremely helpful. But sometimes too few.
See, that's why I think the trimester system is leaps and bounds ahead
I like
of
the trimester system.
our stupid system of 3 months off,
Mhm.
a day
And
off.
TU
a
does
day
not do a
off.
fall break as well.
Yeah, no, that's so dumb.
Which
And-
just makes fall semester so rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Thanksgiving break is abysmal because it's so late.
And it's also weird because it's a holiday, and so a lot of it is taken up by family, which for a lot of
Yeah.
people isn't great stress relief.
No,
Yeah.
it's not for me.
And so,
It's not for me because my family's bad. It's just my immediate family and grandparents contribute so much.
Yeah. Same. I had my mom had something going on. I think she was sick or had I don't know, something happened, she couldn't cook. So I had to make dinner.
Yeah.
With my sister,
I
and
remember
that's
that.
a whole week of
Mhm.
getting food and preparing, so you're not doing it all in the day. And because you called me and you're like, "Hey, I'm leaving." I'm like, "Oh, we haven't eaten yet." You're like, "Wait, what?"
It's like, it's 10:30 p.m.
I'm just getting the pie out.
Yikes.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, it's strange. I mean, the best advice I can give to avoid burnout really is find balance, which is a very yoga answer, but
Well, I just find something else to do.
yeah, no, find recovery that works for you,
Yeah.
because it's
Constructive recovery.
yeah, because the answer isn't, okay, I just need to make it through this week, then I can binge drink and get back on my grind.
Mhm.
That's not gonna work.
No.
You need to find something that actually rejuvenates you, whether that's, some people are on that grind of going to the gym every day for an hour, and that's their time to focus and not pay attention. And for them, that's just as good. If you can be one of those people, or
Do it.
find out if you're one of those people, fantastic. Exercise is one of the best things you can do for improving your own focus as well as improving your own sleep schedule.
Mm.
And other people, it's, okay, I need to set time aside to be with my friends. And make sure that I have a balanced social life. Because I feel like the big thing that keeps people from going fully into that mentality of, okay, well, I know the laundry list of things I need to do to be a good student.
Right.
Of get enough sleep, do all the readings beforehand, ask the right questions, study a good amount. Everyone knows that laundry list because we're told it since high school even, of
Yeah.
this is how you be a good student.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the big thing that keeps people from doing that is that fear of, if I fully commit to this, what's going to be left for the rest of my life?
Well, exactly, because I think you end up committing to this routine
Mhm.
that you kind of take out this spontaneity almost.
And the spontaneity is fun.
It is.
That was my favorite part of my freshman year, was I was at a point where it's oh, well, it's 1 a.m. on a Friday night. Do you want to walk across the street to go to Quick Trip? And my first thought didn't have to be, let me call my parents.
No, and I think the spontaneity in part also can help combat
Mhm.
burnout. I think it depends on the person, obviously, but I think that liberty to do things, because you don't when you commit yourself to such a strict schedule, because that's what my life ended up being when I was in 18 hours.
Yeah.
Was I woke up at the same time every day. I went to the gym for an hour a day, and everything was planned out. I didn't really have time to I didn't take a break for months.
I hated it. I did the same thing, and I couldn't
Yeah.
even fit going into the gym
Yeah.
because I was going from 10:30 to 10:30.
Yeah. Here's
And it just was exhausting.
a quick glimpse into my own personal therapy sessions. One of the things that I worked on with counselors is I have OCB, which is obsessive compulsive behavior. It's like a baby step of OCD of, basically, I like things to be scheduled and a certain way. And one of the hard things that I had to work on in therapy is learning that routines are not good by their own right. Because I was someone that really thrived on scheduling and routines, and I have to wake up, first thing I do is make my bed, I go take a shower, I brush my teeth, I eat a meal. If my day didn't start in a specific way, then basically I felt like I'd failed that day. And to anyone else, it's very easy to just say, oh, well, you need to get into a routine, and that'll be good. You'll find your balance that way. But you kind of need to routinize spontaneity, which is almost paradoxical, where it's like you need to find a time to do new things that aren't in your schedule.
Yeah.
Whether that's like leaving a big 3-hour slot open to do something with friends. We try something new every week. Whether it's rock climbing or axe throwing, as my brother recently tried, which was an odd thing to hear about, but it sounded fun.
Yeah.
Why haven't we done that yet?
We need to do that.
Let's go axe throwing, guys.
Pack up the studio.
Back up the studio.
We're going.
This is
Echo Podcast goes X throwing.
this is a Let's Play podcast of axe throwing.
Oh, jeez.
What a terrible podcast. But yeah, so it was a lot of therapy for me was devoted to learning that routines aren't good by the nature of being routine.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a hard thing specifically for me because of how much safety and sanctuary I got from living in routines.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's a weird balance thing because a good way to balance is find a routine and schedule things, but it's more about scheduling flexibility into your life and knowing when you can and can't agree to do things.
Yeah.
And learning that my freshman year, my biggest mistake, especially first semester, was I said yes to everything because I wanted to try everything.
Right.
Which is super fun until you don't have time to be a student anymore. And then you feel bad about yourself for letting that slide. The whole reason you're at this institution, to learn more. Oh, I've been doing literally everything else. And so there was a point my freshman semester where I was like, I counted it up, and I was in about 13 different choirs. Between senior projects and church jobs and choirs for the school and choirs for the fraternity and my friends. Like, I was in 13 different ensembles. And that's a lot of rehearsals every week.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm spending about 10 hours in rehearsals. And that's not great. And so it was a lot of fun, but I didn't end up feeling good about myself because even though I was doing a lot of stuff that was immediately fun, like long term, it was untenable. It was unsustainable alongside being a student.
Right.
And so I had that fun lesson of learn to say no my second semester, which is hard, but long term it was a lesson I needed to learn because I liked pleasing people. And if you keep saying yes to everything, guess what that leads to? Today's topic, burnout. Yeah.
So it sounds like you definitely found a way to recover in the midst of realizing you were making bad decisions.
No,
like with your like learning to say no, it's like, oh, I need to stop overcommitting.
In that regard, yes.
Yeah.
I will say the majority of this insight that I'm able to share now is
the last
in
4
retrospect.
months.
Yeah, it's in
yeah.
retrospect, looking back and being like, oh.
But even in that, like you're on the mend.
Yes.
And
it gets better. But
take that home, kids. It gets better.
Okay.
So it's good that Chris is on the mend in retrospect, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
But, and we can get to Alex in a second of where you are and everything, because you're in this weird in between of, like, I'm coming off of crappy semesters and trying to wrap everything up, and then freedom is just on the horizon. And before we get to that transition space, because we've talked about the after.
Mm-hmm.
And the before, so I kind of want to talk about the during, which is definitely what I'm in. Because as I said, 18 credit hours. I've never had that big of a class load. And I think part of it was also last semester was my first semester not living at home. And it got to the point during midterms and finals where I had so much work to be doing. I was in a fiction writing class, writing short stories. I had my French class. I had 3 major classes for my degree, which I'm a communication media studies major, so writing and reports and research. One was for news, which was a whole new type of writing I've never done before, and seeing like all the editor's marks that the professor was showing us just stressed me the crap out. And it turns out it was okay because you could resubmit them, but I didn't know that at the time, or I would forget every time I'd get a paper that was just all red ink. One professor just like favoritism and grading, and the other was just a waste of a class. Like
filler arc.
No, it was just a filler, like a major class that was just is dumb. It was like Naruto episodes 290 through 297. No, I'm doing it. I don't even know if that's accurate. That might be one of the big Sasuke fights, and we're gonna
don't do this poll.
We're gonna make all the anime fans mad. It's okay, but
Tell me the cross-section of your demographics. How many anime fans do you have that are devotees of...
Currently 3, and one of them is me.
Lovely.
But no, it got to the point during midterms where I was crying, like, not just sobbing, just, like, breaking down, like, full-on crying. Because midterms is, like, 2 weeks. So, like, there was 4 times during midterms where I did that.
The body's forced response to burnout.
And during finals, I was so... during the last chunk of finals, I had my portfolio submission for my journalism class, my final 2 exams for my French class, and a project presentation for one of my major classes. And I submitted the portfolio for my journalism class, spent 3 days on the paper project for my major class, didn't eat, didn't sleep, except for like a granola bar here or there.
Mm-hmm.
I slept maybe like a total of 10 hours in those 2.5, 3 days. And I showed up to give that presentation. I looked today for a weird reason. I guess oddly, you know, Providence fitting that I got a perfect grade on that presentation. I gave it on an hour and a half of sleep.
Wait, which presentation?
The presentation from last semester where I had to present what I'd been working on and like talk about it for my final project.
For
the podcast.
Oh, you did?
I got a perfect presentation grade on an hour and a half of sleep. And
Look
my
at
dad
you.
called me in the middle of the presentation.
Wait, he did?
Yes. Love you, Dad. And,
Shout out to
Mr.
dads.
Oliver.
And the final project and paper combo, I got an 88 on, which makes me so stinking furious.
Mm-hmm.
Because ask her how many times, like, I was
Alex, how many times?
in tears over, is this good enough? Is this good enough? Is this good enough of a paper?
How many times was he in tears?
So many times.
Nope.
I was told to ask.
88. Everything she wrote, every damn thing she wrote, nothing below a 90. Didn't matter what it was. I read one of your papers. There were things that I should have pointed out to you in that paper to fix or rearrange or say differently, and I didn't. Because I was convinced that it wouldn't affect your grade. Lo and behold, it didn't. But everything I submitted was just
Cut this audio.
trash.
Literally, like, can we get back on topic?
No, I'm selling this whole story, and then with the French class, literally everything I did was wrong. Just, I can sum the whole semester up in that. Everything you do is going to be wrong, no matter what
Life
you say.
is suffering.
Life is suffering. You know what? It's because of that. Never mind. I'm not going to say that.
I hope the whole last 5 minutes is just looped audio.
No, it's not. It's going to be a hot take.
Mm.
But
Did you reserve this? There's someone outside who...
Okay, well,
Cut this audio.
we're wrapping up soon.
Okay.
Alex, don't get up. We're almost done. I also have it till 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what.
I booked from 2 to 3 and then 3 to 4.
I have it at 5.
Maybe
Anyways,
she's
keep going.
just marveling at the fact that I'm back.
Maybe she just wants the studio.
Also.
Okay, well,
Cut this
we
audio.
got to wrap it up soon, though.
Okay.
Point being. Okay.
Look, I tell that whole story, one, so it can come across how fresh all of this stress and angst still is in me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, it's almost been an entirely another semester, and I haven't had time to recover or get over it.
Yeah.
I just had to roll into the next semester.
Have
And-
you tried living a balanced lifestyle?
No. I have just been snowballing through this semester of just, like, I mean, there's a higher power in the universe because I have been just, like, BSing most of my way through this semester, and I'm getting nothing but A's. I've gotten 1 C that I deserved. Actually, no, I didn't deserve. The C was more than I deserved. And last semester, I got nothing but C's.
Jesus.
Jesus.
Caesar. The point is, I haven't had a chance to recover. I'm still in the middle of burnout, and being forced to continue your work in college in burnout puts you in a really horrible mental trap because on the one hand, I feel like a bad student constantly.
Mm-hmm.
That-
Regardless of grades. That's
You know,
grades are not indicative of how
No.
I feel as a student.
I can pull my grades up and I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I feel like a crappy student all the time because I'm not motivated enough. I'm not
You're not
studying
fitting
for
that
hours.
archetype.
No, I'm not fitting the archetype that everyone shoves at you and that
Mhm.
every sorority girl fits. Okay, not every. Mostly just Kappa Alpha Theta. But I think that's part of their
Let's
charter.
name drop specific sorority.
Every Kappa Alpha Theta sorority girl I've
Can we
seen
get back on topic?
is like a straight A student, and they just stress me out because I feel so inferior to their academic persona. Anyway, as you
Alex.
can see, I am such...
Hi, welcome to my podcast. Alex, how do you feel burnout-wise
I
as
am
a
so
senior?
over-seasoned at this point. It's like taking a pizza at Papa John's, dumping the whole thing of chili flakes on it, and offering it to your friend and saying, here. And the look they give you
My
is
favorite pastime.
is one of, I don't want that. When I look at myself in the mirror, I go,
You're that over-seasoned pizza.
I don't want that. I'm like, I get it for anyone going through burnout. It's horrible, especially when you have to continue living with the burnout, because I don't know what to do. Because what helped me recover last year was summer camp. I spent 3 months working in a summer camp, living there and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I came back into my 18-hour semester ready to kick butt, and I got my butt kicked. But like, I haven't been able to have a change of pace. Like, over the Christmas break, I just cried in my apartment for like 2 weeks.
Healthy.
But Alex, what do you see like on the horizon then with burnout? Like, do you see an end to it, or are you just unable to see some kind of end?
It's interesting because I think this whole semester up until April, I saw no end. Because
You were right there with me.
I had, apart from my 18-hour semester, this was a rough semester. Just because I had 2 senior projects to do, and then all the requirements for this sort of, from all my other classes, not to mention wrapping up Kappa, wrapping up TUTV. I had a ton of things going on.
Mm-hmm.
So early April, I was forced to finish my honors plan, which is my second senior project, because the head of the program wanted us to have times to present it. And I was like, okay, this gives me a definite date where I need to just finish it. So I did. And I presented it, and literally after that moment, I've just felt this weight lifted, and everything's been kind of slowly winding down. And it's weird because I don't really have any plans after graduation right now. I'm taking a gap year, still looking for a job. But it's weird to think that in 2 weeks I'll have nothing to do.
To interject, for those of you listening, take a gap year.
Oh, it's
Take a gap
good
year.
for you.
You should do it. But point being, it's interesting because now I think I have a workload that allows me to be productive, do well on my projects because it's not so overbearing, and also spend time with friends, have take care of my own self. I can have that sort of balanced lifestyle that I felt like I haven't been able to have for a while just because of the amount of stuff that has been required of me.
I feel like part of the problem with the institutionalized university is the farther you go, just the shorter your wire gets.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It just becomes impossible to get back some of what you've dumped out.
Yeah.
I think so.
Because there's not adequate time to build it up. It doesn't just regenerate. You have to
actively
recover yourself.
Yes.
And we don't have time in the US system.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. No, recovery is...
Well, we do over the summer, but one increment for 2 doesn't come out.
Yeah, no. It's difficult, and it is something that you have to actively do and actively find things that like you mentioned this, sleeping for a whole day is not good recovery. It's good
I
for
did
your
it because
body.
I was sad.
Yeah.
I was so depressed and anxious that I just slept.
I'm not saying that you're under any illusion that was the correct way to spend your day.
No. I even felt bad sleeping 10 hours.
Yeah, no, you need to find something rejuvenating to do that accomplishes something, because you need to be able to do something that isn't related to your primary stressor, in this case school, but also do something productive. And we're sort of in this situation where that's hard because we're told that if you're not working on school, you're not being productive.
Yeah.
And that's not true, but it's the truth that a lot of people feel that they're living in.
And the idea that and it's weird because I feel in other ways, if you guys, there's a nice article about millennial burnout that I think, and it's this idea that even outside of school or work, even
the big YouTubers are facing it. Markiplier and Jacksepticeye both put out videos dealing with burnout.
Well, not even that.
Smosh is talking about it. Philip DeFranco's addressed it several times. PewDiePie's addressed it. It's hitting the mainstream.
But that's their job. I'm talking specifically also, and it's different because it's creative and you think it'd be fun, but it's another aspect of it.
Well, hold on. Let's break down the principle of what these YouTubers are doing.
Well, can I finish my point real quick?
Okay, go
Because
ahead.
I was gonna say what people are also feeling burnt out about is the fact that grocery shopping and running errands and like mailing a package that you haven't mailed for 3 weeks. Like
We just
all these
don't
other things, like we push off these
feel successful.
because like we think of them as things like we have to do to be a good adult.
Yeah.
So those turn into a laundry list of expectations and responsibilities. And
And that
we're
really
not...
should be a list of potential triumphs.
Right, exactly. We're thinking
I
about it
sent
the
in my
wrong way.
bills on time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Going to the store and like,
Exactly.
oh, I went shopping and I have all of my food for meals this whole next week.
Yes.
That's huge.
That's a big deal.
I have no
Yes.
food in my apartment
That's not
because
huge.
the thought of shopping stresses me out.
See, like it's an idea that like we turn these other things that aren't school and work in those sort of like work-oriented, labor-oriented.
as distractors to the important, I need to be focusing on
Yes.
schoolwork 24 hours a day.
Or for adults,
Mm-hmm.
work.
Yeah.
And I think like what's interesting about the article is she talks about how like new technologies have made it so
It's-
we can't escape work.
Yeah, the
Email
work-life
and
boundary
Slack.
has all but disappeared entirely.
And I think that's true for school too, because like we have school emails and teachers
Mhm.
send emails at obnoxious times sometimes, and
Yeah,
you're like,
and they
It's
ask us to do
midterm
the
grade at 12:50 in the morning.
I've gotten an email from a professor at 3 a.m, and I'm just
So have
like,
I,
what
yeah.
are you doing? But okay, anyways, to wrap up, do you want to talk about your
Yeah, I was gonna say that because
comment as like a final word before we wrap?
because what the YouTubers like, what Mark does is get up every day and brush his teeth, shower, eat breakfast, say hi to his dog, his
Mhm.
girlfriend, and he sits down, figures out what kind of content he's gonna make, sets up his rig, begins recording that content for I don't know how long he does, like an hour or two, and then stops and maybe does another session, or sits and goes to edit his content or get it sent off to an editor in time and
Mhm.
review the edits, which lets him record more if he's exporting the editing, but he still has to manage it,
Yeah.
which to me sounds almost identical to what Chris said a minute ago. Wake up, brush my teeth, eat,
Routine.
and
It's a routine.
then start, what papers do I need to do? What emails do I need to send? Do I need to go to this class?
Mm-hmm.
Or we get in peer groups, somebody sent me their paper, I have to read it and give my comments back.
Yeah, routines are practical, but they are bland and spiceless, and we need some spice in life.
I don't know if somebody may have already reached it, but I feel like there's some linchpin to this whole issue of burnout that maybe we can't see because we're millennials and we're burnout. But it just feels like there's something really obvious that if you just pulled it out, the whole Jenga tower would fall.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because we were institutionalized to think that if you're not checking your laundry list, I mean, heck, actually, maybe that is what it is, because
think
you and
it
I have
is.
talked about this a few times. It's even in the church.
Oh yeah.
Like millennial Christians and Catholics and like Jesuits, they show up and like of our generation, that's why people are walking away from church or feel so unsuccessful or just kind of like go on the holidays, is because, oh, well, I can't meet all these boxes of praying every day, reading every day, serving, tithing, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M,
For
N, O, P.
Catholics, especially over Lent,
Mhm.
there's such a thing where Catholics don't participate in Lent because, like, you can't eat meat on Fridays. You have to fast on Good Friday and Ash
It's a
Wednesday.
long, exhaustive
You
list.
have to-
and
it's
if
a
you
long,
don't meet
You have
exhaustive
to give up
everything-
like 3 things out of your life until from
Just
like,
one. Just one.
I always thought,
Like, people can get really weird with it. Like, one guy was like, I didn't sleep on my mattress for 40 days. And that's when you're like, you want to give something up, but you don't want to, like, risk your health
Mm.
for that.
and it's
But that's
always the older people in the church. Like I can think of several examples of the church I grew up in. I mean, I'm still active, so maybe I'm a biased case, but of like adults meaning well or maybe not, maybe coming from a disciplinary place, of coming at you and saying, "Oh, well, you're not doing this or this, but you're still doing this." Well, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, my family, because I sang at a church, and my family would basically only go to that church when I or my brother had a solo performance.
Right.
And every time they went, they got basically accosted by the rest of the congregation being like, oh, well, you should come out more. And they're like, I don't want to go to your next thing because every time we go, people just ask us to come every single week and we're not
Yeah.
about to give that commitment. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I understand. But it's this list of obligatory need to do that we're undervaluing. Like, we undervalue going to the store. We undervalue getting enough sleep. We undervalue spending time on ourselves because they're a distraction from this focus on your job, focus on work or school or whatever.
Because
Or we don't do it right.
Yeah.
But go, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
well, just to like bring it full circle, because the pilot season was about media theory,
Yeah.
and just to inject a little bit of that right here at the end of the first season, it's because we have been made the other, even to ourselves.
Fair. Yeah. if you really want to round this out, I will say that one of the best, and this is a more seasoned round out, but one of the best
Go
ways
ahead.
to escape burnout is actually, coincidentally, through roleplay.
That's what episode 1 is about, is RPG games.
Yeah.
Oh, what a full circle.
And
Yeah.
that's probably why I felt so great last night playing Red Dead Redemption for 3 hours.
Wholly unintentional, but yes, one of the best ways to combat burnout is escapism.
Mm-hmm.
Do something else. Get out of your life with something that has tangible, achievable goals that make you feel successful.
Yeah.
Which a lot of video games have, which is why it's a good and often clung to escapist method for people in our
that
generation.
is my escapism method, is video games.
Yeah, because
And I didn't
it's
even
something that's
accomplish that much
rewarding.
last night. I just spent time in the game.
Which is, I think, also probably why it worked. Because you enjoyed your time in the game, but you weren't so focused on getting achievements or making it past a certain level or things like that. You know,
Yeah.
you just were able to genuinely enjoy.
When you commit to the roleplay, you're not thinking
Roleplay.
about, you're not actively thinking, oh, every second I spend playing this game, I'm not being a good student.
Right.
You're thinking, oh, well, I'm
Arthur Morgan.
this whole new life.
Yeah.
And that can feel good. It's a good release, and don't ever feel guilty for having that moment of not stressing. Not stressing is the moment we should all be living and striving for.
Right. I think that's a good.
That is a great.
That's a great.
That's
way.
a great takeaway to end on.
I
Good,
think so,
nice
too.
message for
So-
family
From our
values.
local non-psychiatrist,
Mhm.
Our local dungeon master.
our local dungeon master, Mr. Bees.
So to wrap up, Chris, can you roll for show close?
Roll for show close. How's it gonna be? It's a 2.
Yikes!
Almost critical fail.
All right, well, bye.
Well, I guess in that case.
Well, no, Chris has to do his classic.
Oh, right. So
Oh.
in the pilot season, Chris gave the best outros.
Oh my gosh.
So, thanks for so much for tuning into the Echo Podcast. If you haven't watched all of season 1, now you can. You can binge the whole thing just like Netflix. If you're also a burnout college student, leave a comment down below. Vent your frustration.
Yeah.
And, go play a role-playing game. I recommend Red Dead Redemption 2, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and
Any Telltale game.
Big
any
nerd.
Telltale game, and The Witcher
Rest in
3,
peace, Telltale.
Skyrim. Maybe just go watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on Crunchyroll. That's what I did. Now I'm
Sure.
a big weirdo.
No.
But,
Anyways.
Alex, thanks so much for being my co-host this season. It's
Thanks
sad to
for
lose
having
you,
me.
but
Yeah.
you're moving on to bigger and better things.
You can come back as a guest star. It's
Yeah,
fine.
clearly
But,
I have that option.
Everyone, you heard it here first. Alex, you're fired.
Wow.
Yep.
Well,
This is
that's gonna be awkward when I go into job applications.
fired from podcast at my own podcast.
Yes.
Yep. So, without further ado, 1, don't read Alex's Twitter, and 2, Chris, sign us off for one final time.
Yeah, this has been us drinking responsibly. Have a good day.